This segment of DoD TV is brought to you by Cold Steel. Anytime, anywhere.
Deer season 21 rolling on, man. New plots to go in the ground and hopefully some new shooters. So we're going to get busy on the farms, take you through some of what we do to end up killing these deer. So let's get busy on the farms, get a bunch of projects done, because when the season comes, that's when you shoot them, but when you kill them is right now.
Now that is an Iowa whitetail.
That's an Iowa whitetail.
Oh my goodness.
Here you sit and I'm speechless tonight. It was just an incredible moment to see this guy walk out, a deer that I fully expected to leave, as he's done the last few years. Get pictures of him during the summer, beautiful deer, and then he would just vanish. I called him the disappearing act. Here we go this year, he's definitely the king of the plot. And then all of a sudden, some MRI from last night, he shows up, I catch just part of his beam. I think it was this beam right here, and I was like, that's him. Told Perry, I said, we gotta go try. And sure enough, he daylighted tonight, walked out, just coming through that grass. This was a vision that I'll never forget. And luckily gave me a good shot, and the Matthews found its mark. The Rage did the trick. He ran 40 yards in this biologic deer radish field and fell down. And now the celebration begins. October the 7th, just one for the books. Here we are in southern Iowa, phase 2, greener pastures, and it doesn't get any greener than what's behind me right now. And here lays just an absolute magnum Iowa whitetail.
Baby! Oh man, we've been waiting on that moment. With a bow. You know, as I think back to deer season 21 and how this whole season's gone down, it was just really epic the way it all started, particularly there in September. Wade and I were lucky enough to double. Perry slams a good one down in Missouri, and then going into early October in Iowa, killing Disappearing Act, literally buck of a lifetime, and starting off the season of a lifetime. I think back to Disappearing Act, and he was so typical to our overall playbook of how we like to get on deer. Hitting the radishes, had MRI, went in there and killed him on food. That's where we're best, is when we're in and around our food plots that are tucked next to cover. It's a recipe that's worked time and time again for us. And that was phase 2. Things differ as you go through the season. We do a show called 13, and we really break down all of the light switch events and all of the things that change for whitetails throughout the season. So as I looked into the recent MRI on pictures, I turned the page. And who was going to be next up? Who was going to be that other target buck? Well, there was no question about it. It was a buck we called the fork buck, a buck that we have a very long history with. Through the years, we've had histories with different deer, but we've never had a history littered with so many different clues that we just couldn't solve, like this forked buck. And I remember getting the first trail pictures of this deer back when he was, in my estimation, 3.5 or 4.5 years old. If my gut says he was 4.5. And I knew at that age already, this deer was something special. And his whole life basically played out through the lens of those Reconyx cameras. Lots of trail pictures, lots of history, lots of hopes, dreams, plans, and very few encounters. In fact, we'll be able to show them to you because there are so few. Here's a buck that, through his life on my farm, we probably had 8 or 9 different people go in there hunting that particular buck. And I think we only got footage of him 2 or 3 different times. Here's some encounters from seasons past with the fork buck.
tail strut.
A few encounters, but we knew he was a giant, so we always had him in the back of our mind. As the season started to play out and as the trail cameras started to lay out this entire roadmap of where he was, we started figuring out he was everywhere. I mean, we would get pictures of him at the north end of the farm in the morning, and then by that evening, we'd get him down at the south end of the farm. And our best method for taking a buck is put him to bed and then go in there and try and kill him that evening on food. That's one of the things we do very well by getting pictures in a certain area and then going in and trying to hunt that deer. Or just in general, know that a deer's in the area, hunt the winds right, hunt smart, good access in and out, and then try and take that deer in his home core. Well, when that home core starts to spread, and I mean starts to spread the moment his velvet comes off, then that makes that task that much more difficult. And it took a few seasons for us to realize this deer was different, and I mean incredibly different than any other one we'd ever hunted. So the trail pictures continue to flow in through the seasons, and you see him changing through the seasons in terms of what he had for headgear. And you see that season where he had that deep fork on the one side. That's when we named him the forked buck. Really, throughout the seasons, we'd go in there and hunt him, and we had an encounter or two, but we really started to lose hope of ever seeing him because we would continually check reconnaissance cameras. We weren't running many cell cams back then, and we were like, this guy's everywhere. How do we catch up to him? And it was just one of those deer that was a little bit challenging. Add that to the fact that he lived on a farm about 25 miles away from my home base, my home farm, and you know, it was easy to talk yourself out of going after that particular deer. But we continued to hunt him. And we also continued to hunt his sheds. And 2 springs in a row, the spring of 20 and the spring of 21, we found his match set. So we felt good just holding those sheds because he was such an elusive buck, and we were like, all right, here's another tie into this deer. We actually get to hold his antlers, but we wondered, would this be the only way we'd ever hold them?
The results are in.
DeerCast said great.
It doesn't exist anywhere else but in DeerCast.
Hunters love DeerCast's exclusive deer movement forecast. Get ahead of your game with DeerCast.
All right, greener pastures is one of those phases, phase 2, where we often have success. It's historically one of our best phases. And lately, the last few years, because I think we've gotten better and better at food plot architecture, getting that food stuffed in there next to their bedrooms, we've done pretty good in the October lull. So I looked through my pictures and I knew I was going to target the fork buck. There was no doubt about it. He was going to be that buck that I wanted to hone in on the rest of the fall 21 season as time allowed. And the first hunt was going to be with myself, Wade, and Dan Drake, the owner of Scent Crusher. He was coming through, and I said, Dan, why don't you go sit with us? We're after a really giant deer down here on this particular farm. So what a great way to kick it off. That's their warning bell. We're coming. We're going into the ridge that Wade killed on last year. And we haven't killed one since last year. We haven't sat it yet this year, so this is the first time in. So we're excited to get in here and see what's rolling through. Overall, we had a great hunt. And earlier, prior to the season, I predicted that mid-October, the October lull, could be one of those phases that is extraordinarily good. We had a rising moon. However, I also predicted we needed the weather to go with it. And little did we know that weather was going to be a nemesis the entirety of fall of 21. One thing I knew for sure, going back and analyzing all of the pictures from the past, that come mid-November, it was lights out for fork buck. Like he literally, you couldn't get him on a trail cam. I think because he moved so quickly and so much, he would just lock up from doe to doe to doe, and then he'd stay locked up with them. And generally during mid-November, during lockdown, during that phase, I wouldn't get any pictures of him anywhere. Either that or he left the farm, I'm not sure, but I just wouldn't get him. So I knew that I was going to try my best throughout the October lull, and throughout pre-lock, and throughout high anticipation, and throughout the buck parade to try and get on him, because I felt like the clock was ticking, and if I didn't have him killed By around the 7th or 8th of November, it was probably going to be game over until the latter part of the season. Phase 3 is all about striking on a major weather front. It is the October lull, so you got to have the right weather. And Phase 3 was magic this year. Perry knocks down a giant. What a great installment of deer season 21. And I didn't quite have the wind that I needed to hunt where I wanted to for the fork buck. So Wade and I started to do some scouting, some preliminary stuff. And man, I'm glad I did, because when we were done and we got that call from Perry, we couldn't wait to go in there and give him a helping hand. And on top of that, we get the great news that Brother Terry has knocked down the largest deer of his life. I mean, what October lull. It is just absolutely amazing how much success we've had already up to this season, but my mind, it keeps drifting back to the fork buck. I can't wait to get the right wind to get in there and continue the plan. So, on the date of 10/20, myself and Perry head in as we continue our hunt for the fork buck. And Wade was going to go out separately from us. The weather front was here. We were hoping that one of us could have a shot this evening. I'm hunting with a bow. Wade's got that early muzzleloader tag in pocket. So, we're in here today. Here we are, October the 20th. And you know, you get into this time of the year, I made sure that the wind's right to come in and check this camera. Hopefully it'll give us some information about a pretty good sized deer that's been in here. So, beautiful time of the year, the best time still in front of us, but it's a great day today. Windy, and leaves are starting to come off some of the trees. We've still got a lot of green, but some are turning, some are coming off. Kind of a different fall. Typically we're peak color by now, but right now we still got a lot of green out there. Well, that little beautiful scenery over there tells me that the sun might pop through before this is over tonight. We've got a front, the leading edge of a front, hitting right now. This wasn't supposed to hit until after dark, and we're actually going to see the wind go from west-southwest to west and possibly get to west-northwest. Today's high was supposed to be 70. The highest temperature we've seen today is 59. So DeerCast is updating, and we went from an okay to a good. So we're going to go to a spot, we call it Center Scrape. It's the center part of this 160 acres. Big clover field, leads out to big beans. Perry's got a target on his list, and I've got a target on mine. Josh and Carson are going to ground blind, and they're on radishes and wheat. And then Wade is going to where he found teardrop locked with that other buck on a big clover field. So he's got a muzzleloader tag. The rest of us have bows, and we'll see what occurs tonight. But I'm excited about the front edge of this front because it means it's leading in really good movement over the next 3 or 4 days. We'll see how it goes. We're in a good spot. We're after one of 2 different deer. We've got a deer that Perry's after that's kind of a 5x4 or real big, tall, 5.5-year-old deer, and then a buck that we've been after for 3 or 4 years now. We call the fork buck. Odds are we're not going to see him, but you never know. You might. When we do get him, it's on this scrape right here in front of us. We got a scrape right on the edge of the cornfield. So big, thick bedding here off to the south and west. I mean, the biggest thicket on the place. So great history of him coming through here, but very seldom is he during daylight. No shot. No. There's going to be after dark. Because that's coming down. I know which one to cut. The front one there. Yeah. What's that say? Bingo. Bingo. Waiter, getting it done. On that 7.5-year-old old deer. Whew. That's awesome. That's what I'm talking about, brother! Exclamation point. He's a fatty bud. Yeah, he is. He's huge. Well, what a great way to round out the evening here. We were just getting ready to pack up when I looked out and I was like, oh man, there's a big mature deer right here. That's a buck we have a lot of reconics pictures of. Gorgeous deer, looks like he's 5.5 at least. Big, fully mature deer. Just awesome. This front's got them on their feet. Wade killed, and Carson and Josh had a good night.
And then we just saw this one, so everybody saw a nice deer tonight. I can't wait to go celebrate with Wade. That's awesome.
What do you know? We're getting down to last light, packing up, look out the right side of the blind. There's a big deer we call ever present, and who's behind him but the fork buck? Just like that, walks by at 27, 28 yards. Too dark for a shot, but we did all we could do to get the footage we could of this giant legendary Iowa whitetail.
You just saw an interview in the blind, and that beautiful 5-year-old had come past us. The moment I did that interview, basically as I'm doing it, another buck was following him. Perry sees him and he goes, "Who's that?" I throw the Leopold's up on him, and it's our #1 target. Giant. It's a buck we call the fork buck. He's 7.5, 8.5 years old. And by now we're losing light. It's still legal shooting. It was like 6:55 p.m., but the clouds were so thick. We got the camera up, we put it on high gain, and slowed the speed down to try and get some footage of him. I was having trouble focusing it, but I got some footage of him. And just an incredible whitetail. Hopefully it's decent enough to share. But what a giant. I know where we're sitting tomorrow night. That was fun.
You can't overstate the importance of weather, and if you look at that evening, October 20th, major front, major movement on all trail cameras. We see the fork buck. Wade knocks down the old man, another legendary buck we couldn't lay eyes on. Josh and Carson have good movement. I mean, everybody had good movement. Matt, Terry, the entire team. Those cold fronts are such gold during the center part of October, it's really not even funny. All right, we've had a few hunts, encountered him once, had a lot of daylight pictures. So my hopes are high, but I also wanted to go forward with a little apprehension or a little caution, because the last thing you want to do on a deer of this caliber and this age is allow them to know that you're hunting them. And I always felt like he always did know when we were there, so I wanted to minimize that as much as I possibly could. Access has to be right, the wind has to be right on the spots we're going to, and I was going forward cautiously optimistic, I'll say that. You know, DeerCast give me good predictions, great predictions, and we'd go out, not see our target buck, but we had some amazing sits. And I continue to get confirmation the app was doing well by other success on the team. And I was like, we just got to keep going. We got to stay with the plan. Don't deviate from the plan. We'll eventually run into this deer, hopefully. So phase 4 gets here, pre-lock. This is the phase that I felt like if we were going to kill the fork buck, it would be during this phase or the one that followed, because previous history shows him daylighting the most during this date range. I really had high hopes. It's our first morning hunt of the year. We go in and we have a decent sit, but what do we end up hearing? Dogs running right through the bedroom of right through presumably his main bedroom. I had one spot on the farm that if I get the most pictures, it's around this big thick hollow, and there's dogs running right through it. And I'm like, what else, huh?
How's that narrow 10? They ran him out. We got dogs running right here. We didn't know if it was a coyote or a dog. We still don't. They just ran that buck out. Still barking. Still barking. Let's go.
So the phase continues to roll by. I continue to choose my times that I go in after the fork buck. And throughout all of this, I felt like there was a clock ticking. I feel like it's winding down as we head into lockdown, which is still a few days in front of us. Once we get there, I really, based on past history, don't have high hopes of killing this deer. So I'm doing everything I can to choose my times, choose my stands correctly this time of the year, because I feel like it is now or perhaps never.
Oh boy, is it nice. Perry and I are ready to get back after the fork buck. It has rained for 2 days straight, off and on, mostly on, And we're gonna go down there and hopefully, because of the date range, see this big guy on his feet. We've got history of him, specifically this day for the next 2 or 3 daylighting on a variety of different plots. So we're gonna try and consistently hunt 1 or 2 spots over the next 4 days and see if we can't increase the odds of seeing him during daylight on specifically either line plot or center scrape. We hope.
Spiked.
So I wanted to switch strategies just a little bit. Terry and I talked one day, and we both had implemented strategies on similar type of deer behavior. The fork buck walks all over the place. I always called him the deer that was everywhere but nowhere. In other words, I'd get him on camera, but wherever I sat, I couldn't ever have an encounter with him, or seldom did. Terry had the same strategy over in Illinois with a deer that he was after. And I decided to start going back to the same place. Be the camera, if you will. You know, typically, I don't do this a lot for fear of burning out the access or burning out the spot, but I felt like it was the correct method in order to try and kill this deer. Whether I was going to center scrape or the line plot, those were the 2 that I was gonna hunt the most, wind dependent and picture dependent. I felt like by sitting them over and over, my odds would increase seeing this deer because of the way that he was just different than other deer. He acted different, he moved in different patterns. Even amongst this farm, he was different amongst all the other deer. So I felt like this was the correct strategy. However, it wasn't playing out. Then the self-doubt seeps in and you start going, okay, is this plan working? Why did he daylight here the last 2 or 3 years and then this year he didn't? And I start going through crop rotation and what did we have planted in what plots through the past few years. And I'm trying to come up with any clue that might help put me in the correct spot finally.
Well, we are abandoning our tactic of hunting the same place over and over and over. We are going to go set a spot for the first time ever. And here's why. 2 nights ago, we had pictures of the fork buck on this new plot. This plot did not exist last year. We had pictures of him daylight at like 6:15. And we're like, maybe, just maybe, the addition of that plot and another new plot we put on this farm have changed his pattern just a little bit. So we're going to that new plot because he was there 2 days ago, and we're gonna see what happens. So come along with us as we kick off phase 5, high anticipation. It's November 1st, it's sweet November, we're going to Cabin Ridge for the first time. Let's go. It's really a tale of 2 plots. We're not far from a highway here, but we've got a big non-typical clover field over there, pond in between, pond dam connecting the clover to a giant brand new radish field. And heavy cover everywhere south of us here. Little food plot architecture here, heavy cover to the south, connector over to an existing food plot, but these radishes should have them sucked over to our side. I'm anxious to see what we see. It's November 1st, there should be some movement across these ridges.
I don't see him. He must be in a low spot.
Is that broke deer?
That's what I thought.
Wipe this bow down a little bit because it is frosty. I decided to leave it out last night
to make sure that it was scent free for this morning's hunt. Actually, I left it lay when we got in the truck, went to grab it this morning, and it was nowhere to be found. We had to go back to where we hunted last night to find my bow. Yes, I left it lay.
We start going through and it's starting to feel like the Groundhog Day. When you get on a certain buck and you get him in your mind, you can't get him out of there, and every night, every thought is about that deer. Every time you sit down and look at pictures, I've got a computer that I go back through history all the way back to 2007. Well, his history started back in 17, and I started looking at all the pictures day in and day out, trying to find that clue, but we continue to fight the good fight. We continue to be smart about our access, and others continue to have success in camp. So that's exciting. And I keep wondering, when is it going to happen? When are we going to finally be in the right place at the right time and be the camera, if you will, and get to see the fork buck? Well, the answer to that question was about to unfold.
Well, we're all set up. You know, when I killed that buck back on October the 7th, Taylor had a strong intuition that day that I was going to kill him. And she kept coming to me. She goes, I just feel it, Dad. You're going to kill him tonight. So we're looking for anything at this point. Does anyone else out there have an intuition that we're going to kill him? Or kill the fork buck? He's been a difficult task, but we'll see how this evening goes. Perry's got a big target in here, a buck we called Scar, so we'll see who shows up tonight. Turn true. Okay, here we go.
Matt? 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 Matt?
All that, and then she bolts. All that. The legend lives on, and he wouldn't stop. And when he did, he stopped right behind the scrape tree for me. I was getting ready to squeeze the trigger when he quartered to me at 44. I knew that. And I had him right there. I knew that because you said, here we go. So I meant, I don't think we're out of the game. He's right here. Didn't seem spooky, he was chasing her, I know. But all the bat on his 7.5, 8.5-year-old deer. Never good. I just wanted to stop him and shoot, man. I'm a little bit in disbelief right now, buddy. The legend of the fork buck continues. Like that ain't even. Like I had him dead. Like I'm getting ready to shoot him. Like I set my, because I see it happening. He looks right at us. Literally. Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking vividly when he stepped onto that plot early afternoon, I was like, here we go, this is finally it. The scrape's 42, 43 yards, same exact distance that I'd killed Disappearing Act on, and I have confidence I can make the shot, but the doe's right here at 30, so I hesitated just a little bit. Whoop, corner window's open, I'm gonna shoot him right here at the scrape. He's done it to us again. Get the front window open, and in that moment in time, there's a blocker that where I don't see him, all of a sudden he decides to nudge her at that moment. And I'm like, how is this unraveling this quickly? But it sure did. And the legend grew right then and there. And much like the previous late night encounter I had with him, I was like, that's it. You know, I knew the clock was ticking. He's already with a doe, and we just blew a golden opportunity at a buck we've been hunting 4 years. And to say it was a gut punch was an understatement. Perry and I just sat there a little bit in disbelief. So we continue to hunt the fork buck, and I go back to where he was with that doe thinking, well, he might come out. And that didn't prove to be effective. So once lockdown hits, my whole strategy changes. And I'm like, I'm going to get away from hunting this deer. We're going down to Texas, which we do oftentimes. When these Midwestern deer lock down, we go down there, have great movement. Ended up going to Texas, killing this beautiful, beautiful buck down in Texas we call Baby China. And then we get back for rifle season. Coon Dog, Taylor, Wade, Perry, myself. I mean, we all had a phenomenal season. And it was about November the 21st or 22nd, getting back in a later phase when these deer start to free up. Really, we call it the party's over, and then we go into Green Revisited. That's when I'm going to start hunting the fork buck again. I feel like if I'm going to see him, it's going to be on a green field this time of the year. So I start hopping around, trying some different spots. I semi-abandon my plan of hunting the exact same spot over and over, and I'm really just trying to bounce around with the wind direction and with the correct access to try and put myself in a position to kill this deer. So I go through the latter part of November and into early December, and then the gun season's hit in Iowa. And then I think, well, is he going to survive 2 solid weeks of gun hunting with only a 2-day break? And the pictures continue to roll in, and I'm like, he's right there. Luckily, through the years, how he knew where to be during gun season, he was as elusive to everyone else around this particular tract of ground as he was to myself, because how he didn't get killed over the last few years was beyond me. So going into the latter part of the season, gun season ends on December 19th. On December 19th, I was coming up with a plan to try and kill him with a muzzleloader the next day. I went in, put a ground blind up, added some cell cameras, made sure the wind was right, and I felt like I needed as much intel as I possibly could once he gets back on food, because he's still going to be looking for does, but I felt like maybe, just maybe, him on food might finally put me in the right place at the right time, especially if I had a nitro fire in my hand. And that was the plan, and that's why I put that ground blind out.
It's the day before late muzz. So tomorrow I have a bow tag and a muzzleloader tag that start. Got about 3 weeks left, not giving up on the fork buck. And that plot down there is where I've hunted him the most, and I keep getting pictures of him on that radish field. So rather than go in there of a morning, I want to sit back. That'd be my bow setup, but this would be muzzleloader back here. Anywhere from 115 out to 225, I can get a shot at him on that plot of a morning. Much better access, much easier to get into, and not as much intrusion of a morning. So we're not giving up on the old fork buck. This story's still unfolding. Love this spot though.
So then, first day following the 2 gun seasons, head out. I'm actually going to self-film. I felt guilty even asking Wade and Perry to get up because I really didn't have a high confidence level I was going to see the deer. However, I didn't want to miss a hunt, if that made sense. I made up my mind I was going to hunt some mornings, provided I had the right intel to put me in that ground blind. It was overlooking a plot I call the line plot. Go in, pull through the gate, legend grows.
So, the legend of the fork buck continues to grow. The plan worked. He just didn't read the script. Came through too early. Awfully nice weather, falling moon. Everything was right, but he's 7.5 years old now. Just doesn't daylight much. Wasn't far off of it. He was, 30, 40 minutes off illegal. Beat us in here even with the great access and the new blind position. We're not gonna quit though. I got an idea for this afternoon already. I'm gonna go down in that bottom, the direction he was headed, possibly get ahead of him. We shall see. And this morning's not over yet. Heck, the sun's not even up, but I felt like if we're gonna see him, it would have been first light here. I guess we'll hunt at least till sunrise.
Well, they ought to be feeding back tonight, hopefully.
Heck yeah. Good luck to you.
Good luck to you.
Thanks. Keep us posted. Do you have service?
I think we do.
Okay.
I think we do, yeah. You're going to a pretty spot, man, and there's been a pile of deer coming in there, so have a good sit, and we'll keep you posted on what's going on.
Good luck.
Good luck, man.
We're going someplace the first time in this year. First time we've sat this. We've sat it in the past, but the first time I ever sat this spot, it was about this time of the year, and it's always good down there late season. It's a big bean field, and we've got our radish field right in front of the blind. So it's this time of the year where we plan a lot of these fields specifically for this. They'll come to the beans, but sometime during the evening, if they get out to the beans early enough, they'll come to that green food source. It's having 2 this time of year is very important. Oftentimes we're dealing with snow. This year we're not, so it should be a really good play tonight down there in this bottom field. Pretty excited.
19 yards all the way across the green. If they're in the green, would be within 33. So we should be in good shape if a shooter comes down and does what we want. We got a big ridge off this way, a big valley this way, a big ridge this way. I mean, this is literally a fulcrum type bottom with all kinds of timber leading to it. We came in through the creek, pretty good access, and we'll see what happens tonight. It is feedback. We've got plenty of food here, beans, green, and we'll see if they're wanting to move tonight. Forecast says great from DeerCast perspective. This morning it started at good, and then it changed midday, so we shall see. Locked and loaded. It's good to have the Matthews back in hand, and we'll see what shows up tonight. First deer of the night, little rack buck, 8-point, a lot of sunlight out, good start. He's way up there, not coming to the food, so we don't like that, but it is nice to see him on their feet. That's a big deer right there. Right there's a big deer. Oh, that's the fork buck, buddy. Oh, yeah. Deer, as you're seeing, as there was. There's 22 yards there. Got him, buddy. We just killed the fork buck. We just killed the fork buck, buddy. We just got him, buddy. Baby! Oh, man, we've been waiting on that moment. With a bow. December 20th. And we just put it through him, baby. Nice shot. Hunted that same deer. I've got 2 tags right now, a muzzleloader tag and a bow tag. I went out this morning and hunted him. How far from here? That's got to be half mile.
Yeah. And we said that exact same thing. We're just going to go here.
We're going
not where we think he's
not where we think he's going. Like the most unlikely of spots on this farm for every place we've hunted him. And we just went through. It might be a little bit back, but he was running like...
Oh, yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah. I can't even believe it, buddy.
Good job.
What?
Yes!
Where are you at?
I literally just walked in my house.
Oh my God, you got snow too.
Lots of snow.
The fork
You
buck.
did it!
The fork buck.
I literally just came home and you killed that sucker.
Fly back right now.
I'm sad I'm not there. The mountains say hello.
Beautiful out there. Well, you're the first to know.
Heck yes. So pumped.
All right, love you.
I love it. Send me a picture. trip. Love ya.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Check out the blood. See what we can find here. What a beautiful sunset on December the 20th. Gorgeous. And these radishes are destroyed. Not many left.
There he is, buddy. We got him. Congratulations. I can't believe it, buddy.
You're the giant.
I can't even believe we're walking up on him. Holy cow, dude.
Same.
Third time I've seen him this year. And it's been a lot of long hours now. I mean, a lot of mornings and a lot of all days. And whew, December 20th, who would have thought it? Jacket pocket.
Give us enough tag to go around that antler.
What's that?
I don't think they gave us enough tag to get around there.
Oh my. Look at that. Holy cow, the fork buck. I can't even believe it, Wade. Holy cow, it's him. Wow. It barely goes around it. I'm not kidding. Look at that. Well, I'm kind of speechless right now. I never thought this day would come. In fact, I sat in that blind alone this morning thinking, he's gonna die of old age. He's just been the most unbelievable, challenging buck to run into. This is the fork buck. Here we are, we're with him. Myself, Wade, out here alone in the middle of nowhere, a half mile from where I hunted him this morning. I have both a late season muzzleloader tag and of course my Iowa bow tag. And this morning I was in a gun position, so I sat 200 yards off trying to see him. He went through the plot right before daylight and the legend grew. And here we are this evening, a half mile from where that was. And he's way down in here. This time of the year, these bucks shouldn't be traveling like that, but that's exactly why he was so challenging. Getting his picture was literally the wrong place to go. We'd get his picture, we'd go in there, and he'd show up on another camera somewhere else. And finally, we started hunting him a little different. Number one, during the season, I started going to the same place over and over and over, trying to be the camera, and almost got it done on November 4th. And now, this late season, here we are, first day back after 2 long weeks of gun season. We said, let's go somewhere far away from where he was, and I've had late season pictures of him down here before. It's the only time he comes down here. And what do you know? He shows up. He pops out at like 25 yards. Wade and I are sitting there, we saw one little buck, and he goes, hey, there's a big buck right there. And I knew exactly who it was when I looked at him, and then the blind started shaking. So luckily, the Rage Tip Victory Arrow found its mark at 25 yards. He ran about 150, and this is the end of the story for the fork buck. I am so humbled, grateful, and honored to have the opportunity to even hunt a deer like this. He has taught us so much about white-tailed deer over the last 3 years. They are the ultimate teachers. They're the ones that drive you and try to figure out the chess match. Well, he won the game more often than not, and as far as I'm concerned, he's still the winner. This guy has been the absolute ultimate challenge to try and finally get a bow shot at, and here it is.
fork buck, buddy, all the appreciation and respect in the world. This is one incredible animal sitting here. We're lucky to be sitting here. Waiter, congratulations.
Thank you. Congrats to you and great shooting.
We both killed him, buddy. We both killed him. The fork buck. Can't believe it.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Way to go, buddy.
The fork buck's dead, baby. Perry.
Yes.
With a bow, 25 yards right in front of us.
What? Love it.
With a bow.
So looking back, here we span through so much of the season hunting the same buck, so many different phases, so many different tactics and ideas and strategies, so many different people hunting this deer through the years. And I look back and reflect on literally just a little bit of luck as to why we went down to that field. But I think anytime you kill a deer, there's always some good fortune that is included in the overall recipe. But finally, we were in the right place at the right time and got to make it happen after all the season, all the phases rolling by. And then after 2 weeks of gun pressure, heavy gun pressure around this particular farm, the killing that evening was just, it was an incredible sight to see him standing there. So I want to thank everybody that's ever listened to me or strategized with me about the fork buck. Myself, Perry, Wade, we've talked about this deer endlessly for 4 years. Terry, and so many different people have hunted him. And finally, here it is. We finally get to close the chapter on literally the toughest deer that I've ever hunted. Probably a deer that taught me more than any other deer because I focused on him and tried to study him so closely than any other deer I've ever hunted. But really a real privilege to finally close a chapter on just a magnificent animal and the toughest there ever was as far as I was concerned. So I think one of the game-changing things that have occurred for us that have changed the way we hunt over the last 5-6 years are the muddy blinds, whether it be the Bull XL, the Penthouse, any of them. If you look at how they're constructed, you look at the walls, you look at the windows, you look at the way the roof fits, they're built to last a lifetime. So it's incredible how many times we've been able to fool a deer's nose. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to something that changed the game for us. These particular blinds have changed the game for us. We used to build what we called scent-proof blinds. Anymore, the muddy handles that for us. And I think anybody that hasn't sat in a blind and tried that really doesn't understand how many deer they're not seeing. You know, and second to scent is overall noise. With the insulation in the walls and the roof, they really don't hear you on the inside either. Now, of course, we're trying to be quiet, but if you do drop a rangefinder or you do make a little bump, generally, those deer do not hear you, especially if there's any wind speed outside. And if you need to move one, you can put skids on the bottom of the blind, or if you need to pick it up and move it with a tractor, you can do that, so you're not stuck to one individual place. They're pretty easy to move, and we're very mobile with them, and when we need to attack, we move it and put it where we need it. You know, blinds aren't for everyone. A lot of guys want to stick to the tree stands, which is okay. They've got those too. But if you want more information on the blinds or you're curious about them at all, go to gomuddy.com and check out all the specs. Pretty cool.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Victory Archery, the Carbon Arrow experts.